Hey everybody, Puzzle Max here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new LanLan Four Corners Plus Cube, a unbandaged version of the Four Corners Cube. This was just released. I pre-ordered it as soon as I saw it available. It just came in the mail about 24 hours ago. I wanted to unbox this not on video so that I could kind of wrap my own head around it before trying to explain it to anyone else. It's a very unique puzzle, kind of what I expected, but there are a few kind of quirks that threw me off a little bit, so I'm glad I looked at it on my own first. This is much like the regular LanLan Four Corners Cube that Pitcher invented a while ago. It's a 12-axis puzzle. The original Four Corners Cube is a 12-axis puzzle where four of the corners are static. This corner, this corner, this corner, and the one back here don't move. However, four of the other corners are 3-axis each. They all have kind of a edge-turning, face-turning combo. I don't really know how to explain it, but there are 3 of those capable turns on 4 of these corners, thus 12 axes. On the Four Corners Plus Cube, you've still got those 3 axes on 4 of the corners. However, one of the main differences here is that the other 4 corners, the ones that are static on the regular Four Corners Cube, are an axis of their own. So this puzzle is actually 16 axes compared to just the 12 axes of the regular Four Corners Cube. Because of that, they had to split some stuff up, which makes it so you can actually exchange some of these pieces with one another. However, there is some interesting bandaging involved as well. So this puzzle would take some thought to solve and some thought to scramble, so that you don't run into bandaging fast and can still make some extra moves and make it a very nice, very cool looking scramble. Up until now, there was a puzzle very similar to this one, and that is the Dian Shuang Fayan puzzle. I'm saying that horribly and I apologize, but this puzzle, much like the 2 I just showed you, has the 3 axes surrounding one of the corners, well, 4 of the corners, and then it also has the extra 4 axes on the remaining 4 corners, giving this one 16 axes as well. But, as you can see, there's some noticeable difference in the size and shape of a lot of the pieces here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of give a quick comparison of these 3 puzzles and kind of explain how they work and what can be done. So on the Four Corners Cube, the basic here, this center, and I call it a center because it's in the middle, but it's not really a center. It doesn't hold an axis. It's just more of an edge. But this oblong, oval-shaped piece here can be exchanged with any of these sections, the corner and this edge-looking piece, of any of the other 4 axes around the puzzle. So if you just do a nice up, down, down 3 cycle, you can see I've moved this whole section from here up to the center middle, and that oval piece has moved down to here, and the group of pieces that was here switched over to here. On this puzzle, the bandaging is very easy to see. Obviously, even though this section here would normally turn because there'd be a corner here and a cut there that would allow a turn, because this piece is solid, one piece, I can no longer make a turn here. That can't be done. But over here, even though I have a new piece here, I can still make a turn here. And then I can turn something like that. You can do a lot of really odd shape-shifting and turns with this. This puzzle shape-shifts, but it's a fairly straightforward solve. It's a lot of up, up, down, down type things and just setup moves with some pretty simple commutators. But the solve is fun, and once you kind of wrap your head around it and make sense of what's allowed to move and when it's allowed to move, it's a pretty easy puzzle to kind of figure out. The one thing that's mostly notable here is that you have to have these pieces, which are in fact your centers, because that's where your rotation stems from. These have to be facing in certain directions in order for the next turn to be allowed. And that plays true in these remaining two puzzles. But because they've been unbandaged and have had some cuts made and things like that, these can be in kind of a different number of places that are more noticeable, I guess is a better way of putting it. But these still have to be in the same position. Those batwing pieces, which is what I call them because they kind of look like bats, these still have to be in the same position as they do on this puzzle in order for a turn to be capable. But there's more turns available because of the extra cuts that have been made on this puzzle. So let's take a look here at the new one, the Four Corners Plus cube. Obviously, you can still do that same basic 3-cycle that I did on the regular Four Corners cube. You can do that and swap things around just like you expected. That's going to be kind of the basic 3-cycle for a lot of solves on these. I have a feeling. I haven't solved this yet. I haven't scrambled it yet. I wanted to explain it first and then hopefully understand it myself a little better before scrambling it. These corners, the ones that can turn here, as long as you do one of the 6 locations that it can turn to, then you're good to go with turning this axis here or any of the other axes surrounding it. So as long as one of these long batwing pieces is pointing towards this oddly shaped pentagon that is your center, because that's where the focal point of the turns is, then you can make a turn using those pentagons. However, to complete another turn using another pentagon as your center, you have to make sure that one of these wider pieces is actually pointing towards another pentagon. So if I take this wider edge piece here and point it towards the corner, I'm bandaged there, I'm bandaged here, I'm bandaged here, nothing can turn. But if I complete that turn a little bit, that's when I open up the ability to move this, and because this long batwing piece here is pointed towards one of the 4 extra corner turners, I can then move this, which allows some pretty crazy jumbling. But on this puzzle, there is a bit of unique bandaging that occurs. If I do a complete 3-cycle here, so up, up, down, down, even though these batwing pieces are pointed towards this corner here, which is a full corner turner, I cannot take this corner, which is the one that belongs over here, well, over here, I cannot take this corner out of this spot using one of these turns. It doesn't work. I can, however, take this pointy piece out if I do another 3-cycle and replace that corner that was in this section. Now I can move this corner. So these little pointy pieces off of these oblong centers can actually be replaced by these pieces. However, they can't be replaced by these other corners. And another thing to note, when this oblong center is in this place, much like when it's in place on the original four corners cube, over here, this creates a bandage. I can't move this. And on this four corners plus, I can't turn this now. Even though it looks like that cut should allow this turn to happen, it doesn't. It's not possible. So that extra bandaging there creates a really interesting setup for how you have to scramble this puzzle. You have to know where to put things in order to allow extra turns to be made. I almost consider a scramble on a puzzle like this to be more of an unsolve, because you can't just do random turns like on your regular cubic puzzles, your 3x3, because if you complete a turn on a 3x3, you know that everything else can still turn. On this, even though I've completed all of these turns, I have a couple things here that just won't move. So in order to scramble this properly, you're going to have to focus a bit more on what moves you've made and what moves you can still make, so that you can make sure that you get a really good mix-up of all these pieces. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that I've got a third puzzle sitting over here. That's for a reason, I promise. Up until now, there was a puzzle very, very similar to the original Four Corners cube that was an unbandaged version of this. This is the Dian Shuangfaiyan puzzle, which is, in a way, a more unbandaged version of the Four Corners Plus cube. And what I mean by that is I'll use that same up, up, down, down that I've been using to show things off here. If you remember, on the Four Corners Plus cube, after doing that up, up, down, down, I was bandaged. There were things that just wouldn't turn. This red, green, and yellow corner piece being one of them. On this, however, the Shuangfaiyan, I can complete that turn, which means not only can these little triangles move into the place of these guys, but they can also become corners. So this puzzle adds just that extra layer. Also, over here, this is not bandaged. As far as similarities go, you still have to make sure that these bat wing pieces are pointed towards a corner in order to make another turn. And these pointy pieces have to be pointing towards a pentagon in order to complete another turn with the next pentagon. So the similarities are there, but because of that extra unbandaging, it's going to be a completely different solve, because there's things you can do with this that will scramble things more, but there's also things you can do with this that may make for an easier reduction and turning it back into a cubic puzzle and getting the the jumbling taken care of. On this, I have solved this a few times. There is a false equivocation parity, because these little pieces can be either here or here and still look right, but then when you get to the end and you're trying to fix corners, because these can take the place of these corners, you end up with a case where you only have one corner that needs to be fixed, when in fact you've got three, because this piece and this piece need to swap in order to make this a solvable situation. I have a feeling that on this Four Corners Plus cube from LanLan, you're going to run into a same situation, but it's going to involve these little pieces. And so it may be, I don't know if it's going to be easier to take care of, but it might be easier to spot early in the solve and kind of take care of. I'm not sure if there's going to be a parity situation involving the corners. There may be. I don't know yet. I haven't scrambled this again. So as far as which ones of these I think you should get your hands on, grab the Four Corners cube, This puzzle is a lot of fun. If you can solve a Pyraminx and maybe a Pyraminx crystal or a Star Minx, you can probably figure this puzzle out on your own. It's not too difficult, and it makes sense once you get your hands on it and start seeing what can turn, where things need to go in order to be able to make the next turn. After that, I would almost recommend getting both of these at the same time, the Four Corners Plus Cube and the Shuang Fian. Mostly because if you get too comfortable with one of them, then the moves you're either able to make or unable to make on the other could be a little frustrating when you get the other one. I would recommend getting my hands on both of these and kind of playing with them at the same time so you can understand that some moves are capable, some moves are possible on one, whereas even though that same move looks like it should work on the other, it just doesn't. And because of that, they are two completely different puzzles, even though the mechanism underneath is very, very similar, identical almost. But because the pieces on the outside are just different enough, they change up the movement and solution of both of these. So I'm looking forward to this. So let's go ahead and scramble up this new one, and we'll see if I'm going to enjoy it or if it's just going to break my brain. Well, for a first-time scramble, I'd say that looks pretty intimidating. I'm sure there's more I could have done, but I think I'd like to wrap my head around solving it from here first, and then who knows, if it becomes a favorite puzzle of mine, we may end up seeing a tutorial in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Have fun, solve your puzzles, and have a good day.